Okay, my friends, so welcome. My name is Grace, in case you don't know me, and some of you know me well, and some of you have maybe never seen me before in your life. And I'm just going to walk everyone through this way of inquiring, talk a little bit about inquiry, not much. We'll mostly get to just experience it. And you got here because something in you often knows, like I did when I first learned about the term to actually inquire into our own thoughts, that there is something very profound and important there. Like, however it is that I'm seeing the world is really affecting my whole day, how my mood, my way I'm interacting with people, how I'm seeing, life in the moment. And there's all these, the mind is just so full of ideas and thoughts about what's happened and what may come. And of course, that's just running in there. But when our mind, at least for me, when my mind gets so full of all these ideas that look like they're pretty static, like, oh, yep, that's the way the world is, that's the way I am, that's the way things are, then very difficult to have things change much. So how great to, like many of the ancient traditions say, question your thinking, question your thinking. So I want to say a little bit about that for anybody who has no idea about the work of Byron Katie specifically, just that you'll know self-inquiry or questioning your thoughts, somehow working with your thoughts, watching your thoughts change, changing your thoughts, mindset change is seems very, very important. And some would say, like, everything, it makes a humongous difference. It sure did for me. So a couple of quotes before we just dive into actually doing the work. You'll get a chance to do these steps and do self-inquiry. I love this quote from a book I read this year called How Minds Change, what we're interested in. David McCraney. It's a really good and interesting book. It talks about all kinds of ways that the mind, how people actually change their mind. Like maybe they saw things a certain way, and then what happened if they saw things really a different way. And they usually have to see it with their own insight. Like nobody can say, hey, how you're thinking over there, that doesn't work. Do it like this. It just doesn't all ever happen. Somebody has to come to it seemingly from their own conclusion, like find their own answers. But he said this: everything that's ever happened to you has happened inside your skull. Even the sensation of having an arm is projected by the brain. It feels and looks like your arm is out there in space, but even that can be a misconception. Your arm is actually in your head. Each brain creates its own version of truth, broadly similar, but infinitely different and flawed in its details, which I put in red. Because, so just imagine he's talking about like actually seeing space and parts of your body and relating to whatever your arm is, but same with your stories. That person over there, my mother, my father, my sister, my brother, how things are going down, what my future is going to be like, projected by the brain, which is drawing conclusions. So just, good to know that. We kind of get that intellectually, but pretty amazing. And then one of my favorite authors, Sam Harris, said almost all our suffering is the product of our thoughts. We spend nearly every moment of our lives lost in thought and hostage to the character of those thoughts. Whatever character of our thoughts, that's how we're going to feel. You can break this spell, but it takes training, just like it takes training to defend yourself against a physical assault. Good to see. And like I was saying at the very, very beginning, I like just, noting this. It's like this self-inquiry, whatever we're calling self-inquiry, questioning our thoughts, is in such ancient, it's in all these Abrahamic traditions, philosophical traditions, and yoga, and then now psychology and stress management, and just like sharing that this self-inquiry project, research project was done only 2 years ago and showed solid outcomes in patients' heart health and their mental health and their resilience in a hospital. I'm like, we might know that, but it's like research, studies showing that, so that this is kind of becoming something that is of science, not just of the spiritual realm. So I like looking at it like this. That's brand new. The way to dissolve your struggle is through insight. So you have to kind of find your own answers and then see something differently and see it differently and go, oh, wow, light bulb. So you see your struggle differently, but we can't really, I'm going to try to see my struggle differently. You get to do it by doing this process. Then you sort of realize something. And the simplest way to have an insight, like I think of it as tending a garden, doing the best you can. You really don't know if you're going to for sure grow something, but you can make it real good chance. The simplest way to do that is to question your thinking, to have an insight, and to see your struggle differently. And the simplest form of that is the work of Byron Katie. So here's Katie, in case for any of you who've never heard of the work. I did a little survey for people who were signing up for this, and by far the majority were very unfamiliar with the work of Byron Katie. And then there was some people that were, in the big curve of it all in the intake. So are familiar. So I love that you're all here. But there's Katie doing her work for 30 plus 40 years or whatever it is, 40 years probably at this point. Just sharing the work, facilitating people, allowing them to find their own answers. So we're going to start at the beginning. So Katie says this, the work is the direct way to orchestrate your own happiness. Pretty wonderful. So the direct way to orchestrate your own happiness. So the very first place that we begin is finding a situation that we want to look at that we'd really like to be different. We just notice we'd really like it to be different. We've got thoughts and ideas and emotions about that. So everybody, choose a stressful situation. And one way I like to do it is, the way the mind will review life and you see sort of pictures, just like we see movies. Or you have that thing that happened and you hear the sound of somebody speaking or the look that they had on their face. And it could be from very long ago and it could be from yesterday. It doesn't matter. It looks like this is stressful. It produces like, this is not good. This is a section or a segment of my life or the way it's going down that doesn't look favorable. Whatever stress is for you. So you don't even have to judge the amount of stress. It doesn't have to be the most stressful thing you've ever encountered. It can be something just slightly annoying. And just notice, I like, the way we see in pictures, or see in movies, little clips of movies, or kind of watching memory, whatever it is, just noticing stressful situation. As if you push the pause button on the movie, just get real slow. You can even kind of consider moving it around you. What was the most stressful part of this encounter or whatever was happening? There might be a bunch of stuff that all relate to this interaction that looks similar, and just think about a composite of the most stressful encounter. And you just notice, like as if you were a director of a set, like I'm here. My kid is over there on the couch, sitting down. And my kid's face, they're looking downward towards the couch. This is the the setup, like when you read a play script. Here is the scene, you know, spotlight comes in, it's a living room, and I'm one of the characters. I'm the mom, there's my kid. They look very, very unhappy. That's just what happens to come to mind for me. See what it is for you. And if anybody ever wants to share anything during this little mini workshop, this meditation, you're certainly welcome to. You can type it in the chat. You can also pop yourself off mute and just say, hey, I have a question, or here's my response. So notice what your situation is. Always begins there. I'm looking and seeing, this is what I don't like. Boom. So anybody feel like sharing their situation, what you see? Here's what I don't like.
Grace, it's Larry. Can I share?
Yeah, please.
Thank you. I hope to be on live or video in about 30 minutes. But anyway, I'm in my car.
Perfect.
You know, this is the same situation. I keep picking at it and picking at it and picking at it. You know, my wife has cancer. And here's the latest iteration I came up with, because I'm trying to figure out, why is it? I love this woman. And I'm like going nuts over, it's not just that she has cancer. It's like, damn it, change, you know, get healthy. Come on, you can do it, you know.
Yes.
Why is it so annoying to me? And the latest thought I had was that it has to do with aging.
Ah.
Like all of a sudden we're old.
Yeah.
I'm 75, she's 76.
Yeah.
But we were completely healthy, strong, doing great, no problems.
Yeah.
I was comparing myself to our friends, you know, who might be sick. And I'm still doing fine physically, but I'm going crazy mentally. And I'm looking at my wife and I'm like, oh my God, you're acting like an old woman.
Yeah.
You know, you're kind of frail, you're walking slowly, you know, the energy you used to have. So this is where I am right now with my latest.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a deeper, some other level, but right now this is the one I'm working on.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, they say in Buddhism, you know, what aging, sickness, and death. That's pretty much what we feel upset about. But there it is. You know, that's the hard things that bring suffering. Thoughts about those. So I love it. That's great. And it just looks, and we're looking at impermanence here. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah.
Sure.
And that's a good one for an example of, like, it can be a composite. Like, it looks like this thing is underway. It's not just a one-off. Although sometimes people there's one thing that happened and boy, that thing went down, and that's my situation. But this is like, you know, you find out your wife has cancer, and then that seems you're living with it. And there's different moments where you're experiencing what it's like. You know, it crosses your path. So awesome. Thank you. Okay. Okay. And I love that Dee Dee shares being ghosted by my daughter. Really good. I've done the work on that one. So it's just, you know, being ghosted, it's like there's empty space, there's emptiness here. And I'm thinking about it and I don't like it. Not having any contact or communication. So no matter what it is, now, when I first encountered the work, I wanted to only do it on myself. And I just like the invitation here to notice that if you have the urge or the impulse, like, I'm fine with the rest of the world and everybody else and whoever's in it and whatever happens, it's just me that's the problem. That's totally okay. It's very, very normal. And notice that you're not always having a problem with yourself. It's you in relationship with something. Like you in relationship. So if you wound up getting here, like arriving in this workshop because of like an addictive process or self-sabotage or something like that, and you're just watching, I don't like my own behavior, just notice. So like, for example, I had lots of binge eating and anxiety, but I can see that my thoughts about life and other people were also just as, they felt dangerous and difficult, and sort of felt like a symptom of all of it. And it is okay to just start with, but the thing that I'm having a problem with is food or eating. It's a little bit trickier, but it's okay to do that. But if we just do it completely on everything about myself, it gets a little wide and vast and kind of hard to pin down. Not impossible, but I recommend doing it on something else that doesn't look like you, another person. So Robin shares, getting ready to present a project to my group, and the members of my group were hostile. So good. Yeah, that's a really good one. However hostile looks for you, you've got, there they are. Yeah, Paul.
I have a situation from almost 20 years ago where I was in computer sales and selling a computer to a guy, and he completely misunderstood and thought we would give him all these add-ons for free. And he got all angry and upset, and I just froze up and panicked.
That's really good. Yeah. So, I mean, just good to see. Terrifying if somebody's that upset and angry. I get it. Yeah, that's a good moment. Just picture him at the height of all that anger. Yeah. Very stressful. We're never saying that any of this is not stressful. It is stressful. That's why it's great. I mean, it's good that we've got the sensors where we know what stressful looks like and feels like to us. Okay. So some fantastic moments. And I love that you just know what to do. Even if there's lots of other stressful situations in your life, you know what to be looking at right now. It's just whatever comes. All right. So the very first thing is finding that situation and just getting anchored in it. Like, I'm going to go be there and kind of almost feel my way into that. I can really remember. Sometimes people remember and can feel it stronger than others. No wrong way to do it. And then now we're going to do some writing. And this writing, there's 6 questions to answer. And I love doing these very slowly so that we can just catch the thinking, slow down our feelings and catch what it is, what our beliefs are in the situation. This is like gold to find what the beliefs are in the situation. And this process of writing in the work is called writing the judge your neighbor, because I'm looking at my judgments. This is my neighbor. It's something close to me. It can be a thing, person, condition. But I'm going ahead and letting myself judge it, or just notice that it feels very stressful. So filling out the judge your neighbor worksheet, same as writing down your thoughts. Okay. So step number 1. Starting with beginner's mind. So whether you're familiar with the work or not, I'm just going to be a listener here. Close your eyes and be in your situation. Notice where you feel the most uncomfortable. I love that. If you've done any theater, you've been the director is putting you in that position where the scene is the most uncomfortable. It's safe to do that from this moment now. It's just a replay, but you might have feelings come up. It's okay. Now, in that situation, the prompt is, I am naming the feeling, but just, and I'm going to write down why. Then I'll come back to these questions that I've put in a minute. But this is the number one on the Judge Your Neighbor worksheet. And the reason it's called a Judge Your Neighbor worksheet, in case you don't know, is because that's actually a written, a written document. You can get it at thework.com. Judge Your Neighbor worksheet helps you write down what it is you're thinking. So and the very first prompt, just to keep it simple here, is, I am angry, afraid, furious, heartbroken, sad, whatever it is, with the thing that you're looking at, the thing you're in relationship with, that person, that condition, that thing, that place. I suppose it's like a noun. I'm upset with that because, and then write down why. And here's some of these questions that I love. If I really had to summarize, maybe if I was explaining this to an alien from another planet, what am I feeling? What is the problem here? What is most disturbing about what's happened in this situation? Or the crime, the mistake, the wrong that just occurred, the offense, the hurt. So I am, writing in your feeling with thing you're looking at, because. And try to keep your sentence really short and simple. And if you're like me, I couldn't keep it short and simple. I wrote a whole paragraph for number one, and then I narrowed it down and came back to it later and made it more short and simple later. Here's why I'm upset. And we're just kind of suspending that voice that wants to judge you for being such a bad person to have these thoughts, or a weak somebody, or whatever it is. If you have self-judgment, I would say look at it more like you're just listening to something that's there. You're not the inventor of these thoughts. They just have come. And now we want to really look at them and work with them. There's a problem, says the mind. There's a problem. So I am devastated with my child because, you see what's right there. Super simple. At least with the intention to be very simple. No one ever has to read this. No one ever has to know. There's something about kind of giving words to the feelings that you're having in the situation that is just incredibly freeing, and what you get to do with them as we do this work. So it's like, good to see exactly what you're thinking. However the mind is talking about it. Okay, so here's the offense. Here's the thing that I don't like about life. Here's the crime that's been committed, or the upset. So that's your number one. There's going to be 6 prompts to kind of stay in here, stay close to describing this problem, noticing this is a problem in the world. Let's go to number 2. So this one is your wants. How do I want what I'm looking at to change? What do I want the thing that I'm looking at, the person I'm looking at, to actually do? And it's all right if it isn't logical and doesn't make sense. Just want it to vanish. I want them to go away forever. Just go ahead and write it, like whatever. I think of it as it's the spirit of a tantrum in a way. How do I want this to change? What do I want? How do I want it to look? What do I want them to do? Unedited, childish, doesn't have to be politically correct. And I like thinking of it as very petty, my argument with what happened. Thing inside of us that's saying it shouldn't have gone that way. And don't hold back. So again, sometimes we feel so bad kind of having a tantrum and I hate this in our minds, that we'll get self-critical, or our minds might start to spin in trying to figure out why it's happened, what we did, how we could do it differently, how we could fix it. We're just relaxing that mind kind of taking on this problem and then getting busy trying to solve it. We're just saying, how do I want it to change? That's it. So focus the attention on the change I want. And very simple, like I want, just like this, I want what I'm looking at, person, condition, thing. I want them to, what do I want them to do, say, think, feel? Yeah, Paul.
So what I have in thinking about this guy is, I want him to realize he's wrong. I want him to back off.
Yes.
I want him to calm down. I want him to realize how stupid his ask was. I want him to leave. I want him to stop being a jackass.
Yes, good. Unedited. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I love it. It's perfect. Okay. Thanks for sharing that. And this can be, I like it thinking of it like a meditation, just listening, just be the listener and then take dictation, write it down. Yeah, Larry. Hi, Larry. You're back. You're on.
Hi,
You're
glad I
here.
could be here.
Yes. Yes.
Here's what I wrote. I want Carol to go back to the way she was.
Ah, yeah. Perfect. That's yeah, it makes me just think of a very human thought about life. This should go back to the way it was, and that should go back, and but it's perfect that you found that. Yep. Very simple. Yeah, I can relate to that one. Yeah. Okay. So next step. Advice giving. So notice this is a very common, these 6 prompts I think of as being on this, in this step of identifying what it is you're believing and thinking. So important, because how can we do the work if we don't identify what we're thinking and believing? But there's 6, and I think of them as just, they're so common. They just come up. It's kind of like what our minds start to do. Most minds. So the advice, using the words should and shouldn't. Here's what I think they should do or not do. What is it? What is that? So thing I'm looking at, person I'm looking at. What advice would I give them? And it would look like this, just so simple. That person should or shouldn't, or that thing should or shouldn't. And so just sitting with that a moment and listening. And you've got your situation. So return to your situation in case your mind starts getting busy and flying out into other situations and thinking about, oh gosh, that too, come back to that anchor, that situation, that scene, the scene of the crime that you started with. And then you can wonder, if you imagined your initial feeling fading from its intensity. So what would you recommend? And it may not fade from intensity. It might be just as intense. But I sometimes think, okay, given this is underway, what do I recommend so that they can get what I want, so they can do what I want, so that what number 2 thing that I just identified can actually happen. What do you recommend so that can occur? How might the person become motivated to make those changes? Or how might this thing? The thing that's interesting about this is sometimes, identifying these thoughts, they can sound so similar. Well, here's how I want it to change. I want that person to be quiet. They should be quiet. They shouldn't be loud. Those are all they're so similar. But given that let's say I say, I want them to be quiet. Well, what advice could you give to help them become somebody who would get quiet? How would they get motivated? How would they be somebody who would notice they were loud, since it doesn't look like they're loud, or, be attentive to that? I like thinking like what's on the screen here. What could they add or subtract or fix or learn so that they could never do this again? So that life wouldn't bring this to you ever again. And notice you want to keep the attention on what you're looking at that's outside of you. I mean, sometimes there's lots of advice to yourself. It's okay to notice that. It's going to get mixed in there for many people, but we really want to catch what advice we give the thing that we're looking at out there. And I like just throwing this one in here on the shoulds and shouldn'ts. Is there something you'd recommend so that they appreciate you more? Just in case that fits. What should or shouldn't happen there so that Marie Francois is saying, I have no advice. I've already done everything I could think of. That's fine. It's okay if nothing comes to mind. Yeah. It's there sometimes, it's not. There's no wrong answer here. You just get what you've, even having one concept that comes to mind about it is just right. Okay. So 4th prompt is the needs. Noticing that that's a very, very, very common way that the mind talks to us. Here's what you need. You really need this. So in order for you to be happy, in order for me to be happy, is what I would be saying to myself. What would it really take for me to be happy? And it's okay if part of you knows that is completely and totally impossible. But what do I need them to do so that I am happy? Not just surviving the situation, but I'm actually happy. Or at peace. So what could this person that I'm looking at, or this condition that I'm looking at, what, what could they or it do or say or think or feel or act like, so that I move from feeling like whatever I said I felt, upset, frustrated, angry. So my emotion changed and I actually became happy. Like it all got, like something came in and like, just what could you picture? It might seem absurd, but just like, oh my God, that would be so amazing. This would be a non-issue. There's no conflict anymore. So what would I need to happen, to have happen? What would I need to be shown? What would they need to show me or give me or say? So my troubled feeling just turns into calm and trust or joy. And sometimes, speaking of scripts and how things go and how situations are, you might come to you to identify, here's exactly, if they said this, and their manner changed and looked like that, wow, that would be like this amazing thing. It'd be like a miracle. And I would just be so happy. What do you need, given that this has happened? What do you need? How can this debt be repaid, this hurt? And just what do I need to not suffer in this situation? And same thing as before, like if we start, the mind starts going to what I need to do, how I could handle it better, what I kind of, that's all right. But it's just also making sure that we look at what we're kind of staring at out there. Because sometimes it looks easier than however we need to change it. So just allowing that imagination to come alive there. And in the most simple way, writing down, I need, person I'm looking at, condition I'm looking at, thing that I'm dealing with, I need it, them, to. It's very simple. I was working with a mom once whose daughter stormed out when she was moving out of the house, like literally moving out from age 18, going off to her own apartment, stormed out. And the mom had thought this was going to be a great, like, departing, off you go, the final trip to your new apartment. And she completely wrote a script of exactly what her daughter would say, and how they would do it. They'd be hugging on the curb, and her daughter would get in the car and drive off. And I said, you could do a replay. You could ask, because she kind of did the work and saw things differently and saw her daughter differently. And they did do a little replay. Let's do that again. Let's do that differently. Very cute. Okay, so number 5 on this, in this judge your neighbor exercise prompt is, what do you think of them? Like, what do you think of them in that situation only? And I love that this is a chance to let your mind just name call, describe, It doesn't mean anything about the person's entire life. It's just in this moment and this situation. Here is what I'm thinking. Here's what my mind is talking about, how I'm describing, judging. So it's usually just a list. You know, that person is selfish, rude. How I like to think of these words that we're picking as very important. Sometimes they've been the way things have been described for generations back, not just from you, but just wondering about that specific moment. As this person commits this offense, how would you describe them? You know, what are the characteristics? And on the screen here, I share, you know, this is not a place for whole sentences, but sometimes they pop in. You really can't do it wrong. So this person is, you know, whatever, just let it all be. It's your mind communicating, thinking, how it's thinking on paper. And it's so good to have it on paper because it kind of captures it so that we can work with it. So fast otherwise. So that's how it looks. He, she, they, it, you know, is, they are, he is. Make a list. And the very last prompt. So good job staying all in the stress, if the looking and seeing or just identifying, is what is it I never ever want to experience again with this person or with this condition, or with this behavior. I don't ever want. You can imagine part of your mind saying that. If this never happened again, I'd be happy in my life. You know, if I never had to deal with this. What do I never want them to do to me again? What do I not want to feel again? Again, uncensored, no edits. Like Byron Katie used to say, is if you were God, you were the one in command of the universe and you had your way, what do you never want to experience about the situation? And look again at what you wrote in number 1. I do not ever want to go through this. I don't ever want to experience this. I don't ever want that. These thoughts are gold. They're the reason we feel stressed. So how I'm seeing this situation is very stressful. And here, these are the concepts, the beliefs, the thinking. And sometimes there's a little more under the surface, but we start with exactly what we hear and see and feel. So Byron Katie says, before I found inquiry, I had no way to stop this kind of stressful thinking. Small stories bred bigger ones, bigger stories bred major theories about life and how terrible it was and how the world was a dangerous place. I ended up feeling too frightened and depressed to leave my bedroom. How much of your world is made up of unexamined stories? You'll never know until you inquire. And I feel like it's, I don't know about you, but I couldn't just flip around everything and let's think positively. Did not work. So this is a way of slowing it way down. I think of doing the work as a meditation. We're just looking, and I know it says free your mind. So we think, oh, we're going to do it. And my mind is going to get free, and just almost no expectations whatsoever. No expectations at all. So love to do the work with somebody. And I want to, doing the work, we've done kind of a major first segment of it, identifying the thoughts. Usually we're problem solving and we're just seeing how we see it. And then the second half, the next part of the work is asking 4 questions and finding turnarounds. And I just want to make sure everybody here knows you can find a 1 belief at a time worksheet. It looks like this on thework.com and download it for free. Just go to thework.com and you'll see the resources page, and you'll have a judge your neighbor, which the questions that we just went through, with not necessarily all those little prompts that I find very helpful over doing it over time, but you'll have this, and this is like a paper facilitator to help you find your way through the situation. And it's just 1 belief at a time. So you've written down, every sentence that you've written down is a belief or a concept or a one-liner, however we want to call them, a thought. And we're going to get to question it.